Okay, guys, so I just first want to say that this is now probably my fourth time recording this. I got through the entire lesson, and when I tried to publish it, everything was mirror imaged and totally backwards, as in all the words were backwards. So I just want to say I'm so glad that I have great students that I love and hold dear, because I would give up if it weren't for you guys right now. I'm so over this. But I'm persevering for you, and I hope that you guys are appreciative of what I've done for you. So, moving on, being grateful that I have technology to still keep doing this. Today we should be in our Ready textbooks, just like it says in your assignment. We should be on page 80 and 81 in the instruction book. So remember, the instruction book is the one that is mostly white, not the blue border one. We will use that after this. And I know it looks a little bit weird on my screen after all of the tech glitches and everything. I've just decided to snip everything and put it into Paint so that it's easier to mark on and write, and so nothing else goes wrong with any of the other programs. So today we are moving on with our topic of unit rates and ratios, getting more in depth with it. We started on Wednesday, and now we're just continuing on. So today the problem that we're going to be focusing on says Max's favorite recipe for oatmeal raisin cookies makes 48 servings. He wants to make some cookies but only has one egg. Max has to adjust the amount of the other ingredients. How much flour will he need? So the first thing we're going to do is use our cubes strategy. We're going to go ahead and circle our important numbers. So we have 48. We have one egg, even though it's written as a word, it's still a number in our problem. And then over here we have a bunch of numbers in our recipe, so we're just going to star that, make sure we save it for later. Having this sort of thing in our problem is the same thing as having like a chart or a graph. It's still important information that just isn't in words in the actual problem. So the next thing we're going to do is underline our question. So how much flour will he need in the end? We're going to go ahead and box in some keywords. So we see servings. We know that he wants to make cookies and he only has one egg. And then we know he's going to have to adjust the other ingredients. And then we know that we're looking for how much flour. So if we're talking about eggs and flour, that's pretty much telling me what to focus in on with our recipe. So I'm going to go ahead and circle the eggs and flour, because it's not really talking about anything else. All of that would be extra information that we could eliminate. So we don't need any of that. And looking back at our problem, if we're just talking about eggs and flour, we don't really need to know the amount of servings, because it's not asking us about that. If it was asking how many servings it would make, then that would be important. But right now, we're just worried about how much flour we're going to need. So that's our important information, that we have one egg, we're going to have to adjust stuff, and now we want to know how much flour. So if we're looking for this information, we need to know our original information. So that's really all the stuff that we need. So moving farther down in your book, you guys have this information, and what they're showing you guys in your book is that you can do a visual model, just like we talked about the other day. And this might not be everyone's favorite, but that's okay, because we are also going to do the math sentence way where we solve it. So on a double number line, we can compare those two ratios, the ratio of the two numbers. So on the top, they have flour, starting at 0, and then we go to the amount of flour we need for the original recipe. And then on the bottom, we're representing eggs. So we originally needed 2 eggs. So we want to find the amount for one egg. So they're showing you guys down here that we are going to find the unit rate. Remember, that means the amount per one. So since we have one egg, we're finding the unit rate of flour. So how much flour do we need for one egg? So down here, they're showing you guys the way that you can use the number line. If I know that 1 is halfway between 2, then I know to get from 2 to 1, I divide by 2, and I can do that as well up here. Because what I do to one thing in a ratio, I have to do it to the other. It's just like taking an equivalent fraction. So that's all they're showing you guys on the double number line. I can divide by 2 to get to 1 halfway point, which means I have to do that as well for the flour. So if I have half the amount of eggs, I need half the amount of flour. So on the right-hand side of your book, you guys have these questions. We're going to go in and fill them in together. So let's go ahead and make sure we have a pencil in our hand. If we haven't been marking it up so far, make sure that we have those markings in there. I will be looking at your guys' books just to make sure you guys have them followed along, just like with notes. So here it's asking us, why do you need to find the number that is halfway between 0 and 1 and 1/2? So the reason why we're having to do that is because we only have half of the eggs. So we know we're going to need half of the flour. So we're doing that because we only have half the eggs. So on the next one it says, how could you find the number that is between 0 and 1 and 1/2? And the way that we could do that is by dividing by 2. Right? So to find something that's halfway means we're breaking things up into 2 pieces. Half, we're dividing by 2. So we have to find the halfway point because we have half of the eggs. So then to find that halfway point, we can divide by 2. On the next part, it says, how many cups of flour does Max need to use if he has just 1 egg? So we know that he needs 3/4 cup. We saw that model, so we know that he needs 3/4 cups of flour. And the way that we can solve that, I'm going to kind of combine 4 and 6 because this tells me to write and simplify a division expression. And an expression is just a number sentence without an equal sign. So it's just writing down the problem, pretty much. Because these are kind of the same thing, showing our work and writing out the division expression. So we know originally, and you guys can fit this in wherever you have room. I'm just writing it pretty big on the right-hand side so you guys can see it really well. We had originally 1.5 cups of flour, and to find the halfway point, we have to divide that by 2. And so we already know this looks really familiar to us. We've been dealing with fractions. We're going to have to turn this into an improper fraction. So 1 times 2 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So 3/2 is the same fraction. We're just going to rewrite our number sentence, our expression. So in case we were misunderstanding before, this is an expression, just a number sentence without an equal sign. So when they say that scary phrase of write a division expression, that's what we've done here. Okay, so not as scary as it seems. So, and then we're going to come and rewrite the 2, but this time we're just going to write it over 1 because it's a whole number, so we can write any whole number over 1. And then we are going to keep, change, and flip to solve the problem. And when we do that, we get 3 times 1 is 3, and 2 times 2 is 4. So that is how we get the 3/4 of a cup. So we have half of the eggs, so we find half of the flour. And when we do that, we have 3/4 cups of flour for every 1 egg. So this is our unit rate. Okay? And then we already did 6 over here. So we kind of combined 4 and 6 because it's the same thing. So moving down to number 7, the unit rate is 3/4. That's what we just found out. And that did not write. There we go. So 3/4. So every 3/4 cups of flour, I need 1 egg, and vice versa. For every 1 egg I have 3/4 cups of flour. So that is our unit rate. Every time I have 1 egg, I'm going to multiply by 3/4, and that's going to tell me how much flour to use. So once I find the unit rate, I know the amount, and I can find that for anything. I can find that for 10 eggs, for 12 eggs. All I have to do is have that unit rate, and if I know the amount for 1, all I have to do is multiply it by however much I have. So if I had 10 eggs, I would say 3/4 cups of flour times 10, and I would now have my new ratio. So to find the unit rate, you divide and that is our operation. So explain how to find the unit rate. We divide. We divide by whatever we have 1 of. Okay, so we divide by whatever we're trying to get to 1. So if I only have 1 egg, I'm going to divide by the amount of eggs. If I only have, if I have 2 cups of sugar and I want to get it to 1, I'm going to divide by 2. It just depends on what you're looking for. So we're just going to leave it at that. Just don't worry about the other parts of that. We're going to go ahead and move on to our practice and problem solving book. So that is your mostly blue bordered book. And your problems look like this. So this is what we're starting off at. You should be on page 89 and 90 for your practice and problem solving. This is your assignment for today. And this is in the Go Formative as well as in your paper copy. So just make sure you guys are moving over to completing that. It's in the Go Formative in case anybody does not have their book with them today. However, if you do have your book with you, go ahead and do it in your book and not in the Go Formative. So if you don't have your books with you, you can do it there. So remember that your practice and problem solving pages are based off of the original problem. So make sure you read through this entire thing. What they're showing you guys here is based on this recipe, you have half of the amount here. So remember, when we find half, we divide by 2. And you have double the amount here, so we multiply by 2. So make sure you guys read through that. And then the first 3 problems are based on that story problem. And then on the back, they're having you guys write ratios for each of this information on here. Remember, we can write a ratio as a fraction with the word to, T-O, and we can write it with a colon. So if they ask you to write the amount of oats to the amount of each of the other grains, so we would say oats is 2, and we can say over 1/2. We can say to the word T-O 1/2. We can say to a colon with 1 dot over the other 1/2, however of those 3 options you want to write it. So you're just doing that for each of those. And then you guys have a couple more problems. But that's it. That's all you guys are doing. When you're finished with that, go ahead and move over to working on your study island and your iReady. Let me know if you guys have any questions. You can email me. I'll be traveling, so I might not be able to get to it as soon as possible. But, not as quickly as I normally would. I will get to it as soon as possible. But just let me know, guys, and we will touch back base on Monday. Hope you guys have a good weekend.